everyone, and welcome once again to Ask the Treksperts, the show where we answer your questions about Star Trek. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Sarah.
And today's episode request comes from AstroStar49, who asks us to talk about the Voyager episode Gravity. And that's what we're going to do today. This is Season 5, and unfortunately it's not February, which there's a day in February that is a National Gravity Awareness Day. And I wish, there's part of me that wishes that we had done this sometime in February, but it turns out that this guy actually asked us to do this quite a while back, and I got a message from him just the other day, and he was like, hey, you should totally do that episode that I requested, and I was like, yeah, we should. So now we're finally getting to it. You had never seen this one. What did you think of it?
I never have. It was average.
It was
not to give away my rating already, but
I thought so too.
It was very average. It wasn't bad. It wasn't stellar. I enjoyed going through it the first time. I don't know how it would be on a second viewing.
This is the one where Tuvok and Paris and the Doctor, because you gotta have the Doctor in every stranded Voyager episode, practically.
Well, he's the funny guy.
They wind up on this planet that is outside of time, not to be confused with the episode with the other episode with the planet that's outside of time.
The better episode.
Is that
Blink of an
Eye?
Yeah.
And not to be confused with TOS's Wink of an Eye. Right. But anyway, which also strangely features the Doctor in that episode. But
apparently they ran out of phrases with the word "I" in them.
But this one is those three on a planet that moves at a faster rate than the rest of the universe.
Approximately 0.4 seconds to the minute.
And so so basically they have enough time for Tuvok to kindle a half romance with this girl that, of course, he's Vulcan, so and he's married, so he doesn't think he has these feelings, but he kind of does, and that's pretty much what the episode is about.
There's definitely chemistry there.
And then there's some flashbacks where we find out that Tuvok, when he was a lot younger, you know, he keeps talking about how he was in love with this woman. To me, he looked like he was 15, 16. I wondered about that. Yeah. Although, come to think of it, Vulcans, since Vulcans age differently than we do, he could have looked 15 but been 25, I guess.
You never know.
I don't really know how Vulcan adolescence works.
He did look 15.
Physically, but he definitely looked like he was in high school, and not a senior in high school.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's these flashbacks where we're discovering that Tuvok went very much against the whole idea of Vulcan logic when he was a kid. And that was really the only thing I found even remotely interesting about this episode.
That was the most interesting portion of the episode, was the background on Tuvok. And I thought it was really well handled, the way they played his emotions. Generally, I'm not for highly emotional characters or emotional outbursts, but Tuvok being a Vulcan, it made perfect sense. Because, and it also allowed me to realize better just how much the Vulcans need logic, if you know what I mean. Like, if that's how they are without logic, then sure, take it to the furthest extent. That makes sense why they had to control it. And that's why, you know, the split came off and where you get the Romulans. But if they're that troubled and turbulent and don't really know how to control themselves, you know, it actually fit really well, I thought.
A lot of the time, I think that Voyager has a tendency to take these TOS kind of concepts and sort of dumb them down so they can do something kind of broad and goofy with them. This wasn't really that for me. I thought that this time they actually took something that happened a lot with Spock and other Vulcans, which is the Vulcan who goes around and says, I don't have emotions, so you can't hurt me, or you can't bother me, or you can't offend me, you can't hurt my feelings, and actually kind of explore how much in denial they are about that. Because, by the way, the guy who played the Vulcan priest I thought was really good.
Oh, he was fantastic.
And he says it isn't that we don't have emotions, it's that we have to control them, which is a distinction that we already knew about, but I liked that then in the same episode later on, Tuvok, in denial, said, I don't have those emotions for you to affect.
Yeah. And
he's doing what all of them seem to do.
I think what he's doing is simplifying it, dumbing down, so that the humans will leave them alone and not probe and try to get under their skin, so to speak.
Sure, yeah. And this priest, of course, being this kind of wise philosopher, he's going to say it the complicated way that a human wouldn't understand, but he's trying to explain it to a Vulcan boy.
Adolescent needs
precisely
in order to figure it out. Yeah.
Here's my catch-22 with this episode. the Vulcan priest stuff with the background was the only thing I really latched onto this episode, and yet, had it not been there, there might have been a better chance to explore Tuvok's relationship with this girl that I thought was really generic and didn't really interest me, and I didn't really understand what he saw in her.
I don't think it was the fault of the flashback sequences.
It took up time, though, and those sorts of things, but that could have been done without flashback, is all I'm saying.
Well, it could have been, but that was the interesting part. And the thing I'm saying is that the rest of the episode was just, I felt like there wasn't enough.
No, there wasn't.
I thought they were stretching. I thought they were. That could have been half an hour, and we would have gotten the same stuff out of it.
Sure, I agree with you, but it didn't have to be that way. They could have come up with something more interesting for them to do, is all I'm saying.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm saying leave the Vulcan flashbacks in there. You could have been just as good, but then actually do something interesting with the amount of time that they were stretching and you know, they really had it there, but they didn't do anything with it.
Hear me out for a minute.
Sure.
The whole point of the Vulcan flashbacks was to give a reason for Tuvok to be experiencing these feelings of romance, and they were only there to stretch out time. And I think that the episode got lucky that they were as good as they were. I think that generally speaking, you want to try to do those sorts of things without flashback. I don't think they needed to be there. I think trying to have Tuvok, have these emotions, and then just have him have that mention that he has with Paris on the rocks, where he says, "When I was a boy, I was in love with this girl." That's all we needed for that. The rest of the episode needed more meat to it, and so the only reason that we're latching so hard onto the flashbacks was because there's nothing here. Besides that.
Yeah, exactly. But I think the problem is that that's the part they came up with and said, let's make an episode around the flashbacks.
Right.
And so what they needed to do, instead of taking the flashbacks out, because that was the interesting part, that was the meat of it, and
it wouldn't have been if they had been writing in the first place, is what I'm saying.
I don't know. I think they could have just taken it. I thought that was a good idea.
I didn't.
The flashback portion was a good idea.
I'm usually anti-flashback, though.
I don't mind flashbacks, so
okay, all right. Well,
I like them, but I think that they could have done something way more interesting.
There are a lot of good counterexamples, but this is a case where it was clearly a crotch.
Well, it was a crutch because it was the whole concept. What they did was they said, "Oh, we have this great concept for Tuvok as a kid and exploring Vulcans." And all this stuff.
But why couldn't more of the episode have been back then? Is what I'm saying. If the story,
that would have been great.
That's what I'm saying. I felt like if there had been a story here, more of a story.
Yeah.
And I apologize if this is somebody's favorite episode, but I just don't care for it. If more of the story had been back then, and that had been the crux of it, and then we had done more like flash forward so that we could connect it somehow to present, that would have been okay because the story is in the past.
But Voyager wouldn't do that because you need most of the episode to be with the characters as we know them.
Yeah,
so,
but you don't have to do it that way. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like if the story is about Tuvok as a boy, and then maybe in the present you have a slight B story where you learn something that kind of like connects back to that, then that's when flashback can be used to good effect. That probably would have been
the best way to do it.
Yeah.
But the problem is, I think that they said, here's this flashback that's awesome, and then now we're going to pull an extremely generic story out of the thin air and give it absolutely no thought whatsoever and make it long and draggy and stretch it out on screen, and we'll insert the really good flashback points that we put some time and effort into in between them. Except that's what they did.
Yeah, except I don't know how much time and effort they put into them. I still say that they got lucky with it.
Well, maybe they did get lucky, but they're good.
It's two actors on one set. Clearly they shot that in one day. You know what I mean? And that's like a quarter of the episode.
But how long did they take writing it? That's what I want to know.
So, what really bugs me about the main crux of the story is that while the whole thing is supposed to be about Tuvok exploring these emotions, we still don't spend enough time with these two characters doing anything but atmosphere. There's so much just like establishing what this planet looks like, and like showing them hunting and things, hunting these giant spiders and things. Yeah. Like, I don't get what he sees in her is my thing. I don't really understand why Tuvok latched on to this person. It really seemed like, well, she's the only woman here, and that is
really what it felt like.
Tom Paris has a girlfriend, so that's.
Yeah, that's definitely what it felt like. I think the actors had chemistry, and I think that came across
I
in
agree
the
with
episode.
You. No, I agree with you.
But just as the audience, we can't logically come through and say this point, they spent enough time together. He saw this in her, she saw this in him. Other than man, woman, you know, lost on a planet.
Insert any other male crew member of Voyager that wasn't currently dating someone, you would have the same story minus the whole I'm not supposed to date you because I'm an emotionless Vulcan.
Yeah.
You know, put Chakotay in there, could have had the same thing.
This sort of thing was just handled so much better in the original series with Spock when he was on that. I can't remember think of the name of the episode, but when he went down and he was on the ice, caught in the ice world. Remember when they were all jumping into different areas and he was with it was Zarabeth?
Yeah.
That was so fantastic.
Good call.
Yeah.
Good point. And the episode's escaping me right now, but yeah, good point. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So
that's it. No. I completely agree with you. Yeah. Another thing that really took me out here was, what was the point? Please explain to me what the point was of making such a big deal out of losing the universal translator, because it really seemed like they did that just because they don't do it enough in Star Trek. Where like they wanted to remind us that Star Trek's a smart show because we really do deal with languages. Yeah. Except that this woman became nearly fluent in English in less than 3 months.
Yeah, I thought when they first did that, I thought they were going to take it somewhere interesting. And then in the next scene, all of a sudden, it's a couple months later, but she's speaking English. And I'm like, wait, did they fix the universal translator, or did she just pick it all up in
Not
2
enough
months?
Time passed, and we didn't even have one of those regular bogus Star Trek explanations of, our species is really good at languages.
Yeah. So,
you know, which we've seen in Voyager also. Remember Arturus, the guy that can learn languages like that?
Sure, somebody can pick up a language in 2 months. It's not that huge a deal when it's immersion and you care about it. And
Do you need to spend more time with more than 2 people, though?
No.
Not necessarily?
You just need to talk with them a lot.
All right.
And care about picking it up.
I didn't buy it in this context.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know enough about languages.
It just surprised me because I thought that at first I didn't realize so much time had passed, and I really thought they were going to do something more
interesting. Well, and you wouldn't right away, to be fair. You wouldn't know that right away because you don't know until we go back to Voyager that time is moving at a different rate.
Yeah. So I just thought they were going to do something more interesting than they did, and all of a sudden, snap, she knows the language.
Well, rating?
Rating 2.
2 is what I was going to say as well.
Yeah, it's very average. There are things that I really like about it, and other things that I don't think there's anything that I just absolutely dislike about this episode, other than the fact that it drags a bit. And I don't know if I would have the same good experience with it watching it the second time. It's
not terrible. I think it's a major missed opportunity, especially because, and I always look at this also in the context of the character. There aren't enough really good Tuvok episodes, and when you miss the boat on a character like this, that ought to have more good episodes than he does. Like anytime I see a bad Chakotay episode, I feel the need to rake the coal to rake it over the coals a little harder because it's like Chakotay didn't get enough to do. You know, I mean, like Voyager really in the a lot of the time is kind of the Tom Paris show when it's not the Janeway show, when it's not the 7 of 9 show. So
yeah.
So there you go. Well, anyway, that's our rating for Gravity. Thanks as always for watching. And if there is a topic you'd like to ask us for Ask the Treksperts for a future video, or if there is an episode you'd like us to review, leave that in the comments as well. Thanks as always for watching. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Sarah.
We'll see you next time.